So I have been getting some great comments and questions on the last reel that I posted. How much protein do we women going through perimenopause and menopause really need to get in our diet to stay healthy? Now, just to recap really quickly, I always recommend 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. Again, I will include the amounts of protein that are recommended through the Mayo Clinic in the description below. But one of the recurring themes that I want to really address is that there is this idea that if we eat excessive amounts of protein, we just pee out the extra protein, that it has this net neutral effect on our body. Now, let me explain that eating excessive amounts of protein is no better than not eating enough protein at all. Let me explain what happens to your body when you eat excessive amounts of protein. Somebody suggested eating somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 grams per pound of body weight. That's the equivalent of, if you're a 150-pound woman, that's 300 grams of protein. That's the equivalent of about 2 pounds of chicken breasts. That's a lot of protein, and your body does not need that. So when you consume protein, protein does get broken down into its amino acids. But there's 2 parts of what happens with protein. One part of it now protein is the only macronutrient that contains nitrogen. So protein gets broken down and it gets converted to nitrogen. The excess gets converted to nitrogen. That nitrogen then gets converted to something called urea. Urea then moves through your kidneys, and yeah, that bit of it does get peed out of your body. But there's this other half too. Now, this other half of the protein molecule will get converted to glucose if your body is not using it as it needs to, and that will sit there and wait for you to use it for purposeful activity or whatever it is when you exert yourself. And if it doesn't get used, it will get converted to fat. So excess protein can actually end up getting stored as fat if you're eating too much of it. So don't think that you're eating too much protein right now, because really eating 300 grams of protein is a hell of a lot of protein. And I don't think a lot of people are actually doing that. If you're someone who is doing some very heavy lifting, if you are someone who's doing a lot of endurance exercise, if you're someone who's dealing with a condition like cancer, yes, you may have higher protein requirements. I would expect that you would. So you would want to nudge that up a little bit, but everyone needs to balance their diet with vegetables, with fruits, with some whole grains, and definitely with healthy fats. I'm going to talk a lot about healthy fats in the future because it affects our brain through menopause, affects our gut through menopause, our joints, all of that stuff. Now, I am a 52-year-old woman who is perimenopausal. I am completely plant-based, and I'm an endurance athlete, and I hit my protein requirements every day. If you want to get some of my healthy recipes, and I send them out in my newsletter every week, you can get my meal plan that I send out every single week. So you can check out the link in my bio. Subscribe, it's free. At least it'll give you some food for thought, some healthy recipes that will help keep you healthy and plant-based.